Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here this morning to talk about the treasures of Tanjore Nayaks to the best of my knowledge. We all know that our country is rich in culture, encompassing different aspects like music, dance, drama, paintings, etc. Period and land-wise, there had been distinct stamps with strong local flavors all through. The study of these developments, even for a specific short period, is very, very vast. Today's topic, the treasure of Tanjore Nayaks, is just a drop in the vast ocean of cultural treasures of India in all its glory. History says that the Tanjore Nayaks were the first appointed to govern the Chola country by the Vijayanagar Emperor Achyuta Raya in 1529. South India came under the influence of Vijayanagar kingdom as early as 1358 under the leadership of Kumara Kampanna. South India continued under Vijayanagar for long without any interruption, with the hereditary rulers of Chola and Pandya as feudatories of the new power. Along with the Mohammedan enemies from north, the Cholas and Pandyas also gave trouble to the Vijayanagar power. There was a need for a stronger ruler to establish peace in the land. At this period, Vishwanath Nayak was ruling the entire southeastern region in the south. The Vijayanagar emperor divided the power of the south to three regions as Majura Nayaks, Tanjore Nayaks, and Jinji Nayaks. Jinji Nayaks ruled from 16th to 18th century and were subordinates of the imperial Vijayanagar emperors. They were appointed as provincial governors in Jinji. These historical evidences are confirmed in the Telugu literature like Tanjavuri Andhra Rajulu Charitramu and Sahitya Ratnakara. You get a lot of information about the historical events. Before getting into the treasures of the Tanjore Nayaks, let's have a short introduction about the history of the relevant period, because this is very important. All the kings in Tanjavur, the Nayaks especially, they were very good in all the arts and architecture, poetry, literature, and everything. So we have to know from which period to which period. I'm going to tell it in very short time, and you have the table there. Sevappa Nayak was the first one, who was also known as Chinna Seva or Siru Seva, was crowned in Tanjore in 1532. After all that trouble there, he was crowned there in 1532 by King Achyuta Raya of Vijayanagar Empire. Inscriptions show that he hailed from a family of nobles and powerful generals. He married Murthy Mamba from the Vijayanagar royal family, hence was very close and loyal to the suzerain. Sevappa's rule in Tanjore was filled with peace and prosperity. He was a very pious man and spent his last years in acts of piety. His pious deeds are spoken of with great fervor in treatises like Raghunatha Abhyutayam, Sangeeta Sudha, Vijaya Vilasam, and Rajagopala Vilasam. Sevappa Nayak's patronage extended even to the Portuguese and helped them build forts and churches. He was very friendly with Majura and Jinji Nayaks. He gifted lands to construct Buddhist temples and Mohammedan mosques. During his last days, he appointed Govinda Dikshidhar as his minister, an able administrator and counselor who was in the court serving for 2 consecutive kings. We are going to hear more about Govinda Dikshidhar because he has also written very good books on music and dance. Achyutappa Nayak, son of Sevappa Nayak, ruled Tanjore till 1614. He was very religious and devoted to Lord Ranganatha of Srirangam. He was ably assisted by his minister Govinda Dikshidhar, who was a wise diplomat. He was a liberal patron of music and dance. He donated a village named Melatur near Tanjavur to a group of Telugu Brahmin families who migrated from Andhra, Kuchipudi village. The village was also known as Achyuta Rajapuram, in the name of the ruler who gifted the village. Achyutappa's reign was not one continued with peace. His later years were filled with internal troubles in the country by the neighbors as well as the foreigners. Thus, he made his son Raghunatha Nayak as Yuvaraja when he was very young in the year 1589. Next came Raghunatha Nayak, but he came to the throne only in 1600. Was the most illustrious of the Tanjore Nayaks. His rule was one of peace. It marked the revival and development in all spheres, particularly in the field of art and culture. Literature and art flourished, and Tanjore became the center for learning literature, painting, music, and dance. The ruler himself was a renowned scholar and author of many works, which we'll be seeing later on in the talk. Many poets have written eulogies about the greatness of this king. He had a big harem, where many of them were good in music and dance. The literary works written during this period give a fine picture of Raghunatha Nayak's military exploits and literary attainments. He was also an authority on Carnatic music and well versed in playing veena. His son Vijay Raghava Nayak came to throne in 1633 and ruled till 1673. His rule saw peace and tranquility in the country. Like his father, he was also great in literature, art, and music. He was a patron of art and culture. He died gloriously in the Battle of Vallam along with his son Mannarudasa. This disastrous battle marked the end of the Nayaks' rule in Tanjore. This was the last war on Madura upon Tanjore, and Tanjore was annexed by Chokkanatha Nayak, and he appointed Alagiri Nayak as the viceroy in Tanjore. Chengamala Das of Tanjore plotted a feud between the brothers Alagiri and Chokkanatha. He sought the help of Bijapur Sultan to put him back on the Tanjore throne. He made the Sultan believe that he was the legitimate heir of the Tanjore throne. The Sultan sent an army under his General Ekoji to assist Chengamala Das. Ekoji won the battle and marched into Tanjore. Chengamala Das was declared the king ruler of the Tanjore in 1674, but he could not rule peacefully because of internal politics and problems by his own followers. He was not a very good ruler. He requested Ekoji to take over Tanjore since he could not manage the power. Thus began the Maratha rule in Tanjore by Ekoji I in 1675. The Nayak period was a time of movement, innovation, wars, and rapid cultural growth. So why I had to say up to Maratha rule was that period of Nayak is very wonderful. They have laid the foundation for the cultural growth, which the Marathas will pick it up with lot of their innovations and new things. They come up with more forms in the music and dance field. Now let's see about their architecture. The Srirangam temple Gopurams of north and west were built by Achyutappa Nayaka. Many mandapas were constructed in front of the already existing temples as extensions with decorative pillars, stages, etc. A dam was built across the river Kaveri near Tiruvadi for irrigation. Numerous agraharams and colonies were built for artisans, poets, Brahmins, dancers, Bhagavatas, etc. We see such things during Chola period around the temple. Similarly, they built it all over Tanjavur and those villages. Sevapanai constructed temples and repaired the Sivaganga tank in Tanjore and dug a feeder tank. He built magnificent gopurams in Tiruvannamalai. He constructed massive praharas in Virudhachalam and Kanjivaram and covered the Vimana of Tirupati and Sri Sailam temples with gold. With Danish metallurgy skills, he built the largest cannon of his time. He gave permission to the Danish to build fort in Tranquebar. Tranquebar is nothing but, it is Tarangampadi, which is very near to Chidambaram. The Nayak dynasty was known for unique style of architecture and also murals and paintings. The style of Tanjore painting originated under the Nayaks around 1600. One can see the influence of Deccan, Vijayanagar, and European style of painting. The subjects of the paintings were Hindu gods, goddesses, and saints. They painted murals and frescoes with bright colors on the walls of the temples. most of the temples, what we see now, is the extension by the Nayaks. They were either built by Cholas, Pandyas, anybody, any of those clan. And all the front mandabas, which we call the Mukha mandabas, and the mandabas, you can see a lot of paintings on the ceilings of the temples, and it has its own distinct style in the mandapa. The golden and silver coins featured figures of kings, animals, Hindu gods and goddesses. The inscription on the coins were in Tamil, Telugu, Kannada and Nagari script. There is also a fact that there was a beautiful painting of Chola period within the circulatory corridor of the Brihadishwara temple. These were the first Chola paintings discovered by the archaeology department. Later on, during the Nayak period, these Chola paintings were painted over by the Nayak paintings, which they found out. And they found nice Chola frescoes lying underneath the Nayak painting. And now they have preserved the Chola painting, and they have swiped away all the Nayak paintings, most of them, I would say. And those Chola paintings have lot of Saivism spirit in them. And they are very beautiful. And because they are much older than the Nayak period, the archaeology department has brought it out. So that is why we are all not allowed to go and see now there. With permission only we could go. Okay, we come to literature. Sevappa Nayak brought with him the literature and art. It is really interconnected in this period. Sevappa Nayak brought with him not only the cultural traditions of Vijayanagar court, but also great profound scholars and exponents from Andhra. They were exponents of Advaita. The river banks were vibrant with Vedic mantras and Vedic ceremonies. There were plenty of references scattered in the literature of this period about the development progress of the performing arts. We find a big gap between the literature available on the performing arts of the Chola period to Nayak period. In between, we don't get much of granthas. The available Lakshana granthas on music, dance and drama are plenty both in Tanjore and the neighboring states written during this period. Cholas depicted the art in stone, whereas Nayaks wrote it in all palm leaves. Telugu was the court language. The Lakshana Granthas were written in Sanskrit and Telugu. Raghunatha Nayak was an accomplished scholar and author of many works in Telugu. At the instance of Govinda Dikshadhar, he was said to have authored a Sanskrit work in music called Sangeeta Sudha. Raghunatha Nayak's scholarship has made him author splendid kavyas like Parijada Paharana Natakam, Valmiki Charitram, Achyudendra Achyudayam, Gajendra Moksham, Nalacharitram, Sri Rukmini Krishna Vivaha Yakshaganas. They have penned a lot of Yakshaganas also. In all his literary works, there are references to music, musical instruments, dance, and dance dramas. During Raghunatha Nayak's period, a royal library was established in the palace. You can see the literary works, what all they have written there. Each one of them. Just take a look at that. Then we go to the music. Raghunatha Nayak describes in his text Valmiki Charitram the exquisite dance of Ramba and Urvashi as Desi Nritta. Desi Nritta was very famous during the Nayak period. In the context of Urvashi's dance, the talas like Adi Talam, Dutiya, Antarakrita, Jayamangala, Jampai, etc. are mentioned. Some of them we use, some of them we don't know what it is. Madhuravani, the royal poetess, give a beautiful description of the ladies of the court who were proficient in music and dance. The available manuscripts of the work Valmiki Chaitram, we get very small portions of that. And Sangeeta Sudha speaks about the music of that period and bears testimony to the musical scholarship of Raghunatha Nayak. Swaramela Kalanidhi is a treatise on music by Venkatamahi, which gives the present 72 Melakarta scheme, Raga scheme, to the Carnatic music. Today, whatever we sing in Carnatic music is written during this time. It was written during this time. Krishnavari, an eminent composer, wrote a Shlesha Kavya named Narada Parijatam. Rangajamma was a highly learned and accomplished lady in the court who could compose dance pieces and poems in 8 languages. She received Kanakabhisheka at the hands of Vijayaraghavan Nayak. She is said to have composed Yakshaganas and Padas. Her works Mannarudasa Vilasam and Usha Parinayam are fine literary works in Telugu. Raghunatha in his work Shringara Savitri depicts Savitri playing on her veena the Sthayi, Shadava, Audava, Murchanas, Gamakas, Spuritam, Kampitam, etc. He mentions lots of these kind of technical words. I have just mentioned a few. The name Goti Vadya for Chitra Veena came into practice during this time. We find references to different musical instruments like Goti Vadya, Tambura, Veena, Kinnari, Vipanchi, Tipiri and Dande. A lot of them have Telugu nomenclature in that. There was a special ladies' musical band and the orchestra consisted of Swaramandala, Mukhaveena, Upanga, Kinnari, Ottu, Tala and Mandala. Usha Parinayam and other Yakshagana plays contain references of instruments like Vettu Gajjalu, very much a Telugu name, Vettu Gajjalu, Dakka, Upangam, Kinnara Veena, Tala, Pilangrovi. Pilangrovi means flute, but they used to call it as Pilangrovi. Then Chittitalam. Then Seshanadam, coiled pipe, Kumbu, Chandravalaya and Muraja, which were very popular during this time. Particular ragas were prescribed to be sung before the Royal Highness. Ragas like Jayamangala, Simmalila, Leela, Jaini Saru were sung in the presence of the king. The Desi musical compositions gained popularity among the audience. Hence, Prabandhas came into vogue. The Gadya Padya, with simpler music, was incorporated in classical form of dance music. The Raga Regupti got the new name as Mohanam and was profusely used in padams and dance dramas. Contemporary material on the development of music in its scientific and practical aspects during Nayak period became indispensable in later music. There is a vast collection of raga, collection of Gita, Alapa, Taya, Prabandhas available in Telugu palm leaf manuscripts preserved in Saraswati Mahal Library, Tanjavur. Now we come to the dance. What was the development in dance? The evolution of Indian dancing can be traced from Desi tradition of dances that was the source for many dance forms that developed later. It has contributed significantly to the shaping of the present day styles of dancing. The treatises dealing with Desi styles agree in common with two distinct dances, namely Kundali and Perani. These styles have been originated and developed in South India. These two dance varieties are described in many texts like Sangeeta Ratnakara, Sangeeta Dhamodara, Sangeeta Samayasara, Sivatattva Ratnakara, and Bhava Prakasha. The third chapter, Aswasa, of Valmiki Charitra describes the beautiful dances of Ramba and Urvashi. The description contains technical details and is considered a scientific treatise on the topics of Tala and dance. Instead of giving just texts like writing texts on dance or on music with all the technical names and their usages, they used to incorporate all this information into either a story or a verbal with each other, or in a nice dance drama and yakshaganas. They used to incorporate all these things so that it will be easy for everybody to understand. It's more interesting than just reading a Lakshana Grantha. So the Ramba is described to have performed 4 types of Udaranatya. Udaranatya is nothing but they used to call, best dances are called Udaranatya. Namely, Perani, Dandalasya, Prenkani, Kundali, with 6 Angaharas and full of bhava. Raghunatha's mastery of dance is brought out in the context of the challenge of Urvashi and Ramba. He mentions varieties of Samyukta Hastas, chest movements, neck movements, Asamyukta Hastas, and all those things, hand movements, feet movements, and go on. And Sthayi Bhavas, Rasa Bhava, and Sanchari Bhavas, everything is explained in that. Not only that, different varieties of Sthanakas, Mandalas, 108 Karanas, recitation of Jatis to those Karanas, to how to dance, and which brings into Utpluta Karanas and Abhinayas. Everything possible about dance is written in that book. The literary works on dance of this period describes varieties of Desi dances like Kundali, Perani, Prenkana, each having its own distinct styles and musical instruments. For example, Kundali, Sangeeta Muktavali explains the dance Kundali is associated with Parvati and was performed as a solo number. There's lots to it, but this is a main point about it. Perani. This has a Saivite religious origin. The main constituent parts of the Perani are Nritta, Kaivara and Gargare. This form has been revived by Sri Nataraja Ramakrishna and danced by Sri Kalakrishna and his troops. Now also they do Perani, which is Rumba Pramadam. I would say, I don't know words to say that because it's fantastic. Anyway, Prenkana. This is a dance performed in a group of 8, 12 and 16, presenting different patterns woven in a dance sequence. Dancers snap their fingers and strike each other's palm according to the rhythm of music. This is just like our kummi. Probably they had more intricate steps to it, and this kummi was called Prenkana. This was very famous. You can see these dance paintings, girls doing kummi and kolatam in almost all the temples of today, because the mandapas were built by the Nayaks. The other Desi varieties were Karkari, Dandarasaka, Sivapriya, Sindhu, the names which we don't come to know now at all. Kanduka Nritta, Bandika Nritta, Gastisa Sri Nritta, then Karana Nritta, Bahurupa, Kolata Nartana. Even Kolatam, sometimes they put it in the Desi dance of classical variety and say Kolata Darus and Kolata Nartana. There were two broad divisions of Desi style of dancing. They were Bandha Nritya and Anibandha Nritya. You can see the classifications here. Bandha Nrityas were 11 in varieties and Anibandha Nritya 21 in different styles. So many dance varieties were there. Few items from both the classifications were very popular in solo performances. The performer picked and chose items from both Bandha and Anibandha varieties to present a balanced repertoire. Now, Jakkadi and Rasa Nritya were performed as group productions, and these other items were performed in the solo. Jakkani was a variety of Desi style of dancing, very popular. It was first mentioned in the text Brihadesi. In Brihadesi, Jakkani has been described as the dance of goddess Kali. Kali Kaya Kritam Purvam Matengai Naiva Jakkini. That's what he says. Sword, trident, bows, etc. were handled with dancing. Thala Deepika, another text, categorizes Jakkani under Chitra Natya. Jakkani should be performed with beautiful Drishti Bedas, Thanakas, Utplutas, Charis, and appropriate Hastas. In Navarasa Jakkani, 9 kinds of weapons were used, and Pancharatana Jakkani, 5 kinds of weapons were used. Jakkani was mentioned in Tamil treatises as the dance girls with war instruments. A Tamil palm leaf reads that it is a Arya Kuthu and Periya Thala Jadi Sindhu Ragam Piragu Mandi Kuriya Ayudam Munnor Sol Nool Vali Kuruvame அப்படின்னு சொல்லிடுறா தமிழ் இதில். So there also there were all these war instruments used as props in this Jakkani dance till the period of Nayak. Now we will see how it changed. Till the end of the 19th century, Jakkani was the last dance in a dance recital. During the Nayak period, this form was mostly performed in solo recitals. The Jakkani Darus has 3 angas. See, again, when they put as Jakkani Daru or Kolata Daru, it becomes a classical dance according to them. It has 3 angas, Jati, Sahitya and Swara. The predominant feature is Jati or Sollu. The syllables Ellilam, Ellam, Le occurs in between the Jatis. There is scope for research regarding Jakkani. The Jakkani mentioned in the Sanskrit text Brihadeshi was a dance with sword. Excuse me. Later in the literature, available from Karnataka, it is considered as a folk dance called Javada, which became Jakkani. It's very interesting that Jakkani became part of the classical style of Desi variety as Jakkani Darus. This became part of the court dance during the Nayak and Maratha period. During the Maratha period, weapons were not used in as props in this Jakkini Darus. Tanjore Quartet has not included this item in Bharatanatyam format at all. Probably, in the present day, it is practiced in the neighboring states in the form of a folk dance. The Maratha kings have penned many Jakkini Darus, which were performed in the court. Even now, we get a lot of Jakkini Darus, written by the Maratha kings. Dances. Every day the court was vibrating with varieties of dance and music performances. King Raghunatha was entertained by the love-lorn courtesan Chitralekha with music and dance. The Sakhis sang Desi Ragas and Shringara Padas composed by the mistress. Ramabhadraamba gives a vivid description of the achievement of these dances. Ragas innovated by Raghunatha and talas like Ratilila, Turangalila, Rangabharana, Ananya Parikaramnika, Abhinandana, Nandana Nandana, and Abhimita were used in the dance. All these talas and ragas we don't use now. And dramas were presented in the court. A dance bearing the title Raghunatha Vilasam was very often performed in front of the king. Almost every other day this would be performed. During the period of Raghunatha Nayak, a theatre was called Achyuta Rangakutam. The text Vijaya Vilasa describes the royal court as Vijaya Vilasa Bhavanam. It also describes that the stage and the auditorium was painted colorfully with the figures of celestial dancers and decked with gems and mirrors which glittered in the light of the oil lamps. So on the whole, they've been having a very good time that period. I think everyday dance and music, romba jolly. Vijayaraghava Nayak enjoyed the musical and dramatic activities held daily in the court. See, adepts in dance and Bharata Shastra flourished in this court. It is to be noted that Kshetriya, who visited this Tanjore court during the reign of Raghunatha Nayak, never went back. He stayed put there. He liked the place so much. He started to write padams in Tanjore court. He has written 1,000 padams on Vijayaraghava Nayak itself, and which he has mentioned in one of his padas or Charanathala. He has mentioned that this is what I have written 1,000 padams on Vijayaraghava Nayak. He liked Tanjore court very much, better to the Madura courts. the Darbar in Madura. Okay. The art of Padakavitvam received great encouragement, and Tanjore became the home of Padakavitvam. Padas were also known as Shringara Prabandhas. They never called it Pada, they called it Prabandhas. This attained popularity owing to the simplicity of expression, sweet style and erotic theme, Lalitya and Madhurya. The commoners had poetic interest which made them believe that those who did not wear the anklets and was ignorant of singing padams were considered sinners. Poor thing. So everybody was compulsorily they should learn padam. Sengalva Kala Kavi gives a complete picture of Sangeeta, Sahitya and Natya prevalent in the court during the time of Raghunatha and beginning of Vijayaraghava period. They were outstanding dancers in the court like Chandralekha, who received a number of birudas in recognition of her superior talents in dancing. She enjoyed the rare privilege of performing the first dance in front of the royal presence. Rupavati, the court dancer, was adept in Padachali. Chandralekha was very good in Perani. Sashireka demonstrated a skill in Jakkani, and it goes on, we get lots of dancers' name, who performed what, who was adept in what. Kalakavi explains the Vidyadharas, that is the celestial dancers, wished to join the beautiful, talented dancers of the Tanjore court in human form. So it was so good. This is for how it was, he's explaining. Under the Nayak rulers, the Tamil culture was integrated with the culture of Andhra and Karnataka. Tamil dance forms underwent a process of elaboration and were presented under new names because the royal language was Telugu and they wanted to get the good this thing from the ruler, so good name from the ruler. So most of the compositions were in Telugu. Many varieties of Tamil dance items were introduced in solo dance recitals during this time. The innovative items were well rewarded. With the fusion of Telugu culture and Tamil paved way to many composers to compose novel themes for dance dramas, songs for group productions, and expression-filled songs for solo numbers. Sangeeta Darpanam, a literary work, mentions about the repertoire of a dance performance performed in the court. See, everything, the books, usually during this period, whichever is available, it talks about the court dance and what was presented outside in the public. Not much has been spoken about the temple dance. Sangeeta Muktavali of Devanacharya gives another solo performance or a repertoire, which also we see here. Venkatamaki, who wrote this magnum opus Swaramela Kalanidhi, has also written prabandhas and songs. The Uma Tilaka Prabandham and Kaivara Prabandham of Venkatamaki exhibits mastery of Venkatamaki's jatis. There is no reference as to whether these pieces were taken up for dance, though their format is very apt for dance. The solos, the Sollu, Todinga and Kurrakittam in this Prabandham, which Venkatamaki had written, are used for the first time in Tamil and are used frequently by the later composers in the following period. For example, Ganesha Kautuvam by Tanjavur Quartet. The Sollus, Jekina, Jakkina, and similar ones are used in non-Tamil nomenclature. The Sollus with different style of sounds with J was adapted as a new addition in reciting jatis, along with the already existing Tamil Sollukattus with Tadi Tomnam. Among new dance forms, there were new dance forms, one or two I am going to mention here. Among the new dance forms, Todaya Mangalam was an invocation song sung at the beginning of a dance drama. Todaya Mangalam came during this period. It is a prayer song on the deity around which the dance drama theme was composed. It was known as Toru Mangalam or prayer song. The Talapakam brothers of Tirupati composed 5 Todaya Mangalams in praise of Lord Venkateshwara, which became very popular in dance repertoire. These are the 5 famous songs. These songs are fast in tempo and performed as invocatory dance pieces during, even now, in the present day, solo Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi recitals. Swara Pallavi is another form. A new and beautiful musical form was choreographed in the court and presented. As the name implies, this musical form had more swara passages to which nritya variety was performed. This Yati Nritya danced to the accompaniment of music was called Swara Pallavi. This form in the later years with change and modification evolved as Jatishwaram. What we do Jatishwaram now was Swara Pallavi. The Swara Pallavis of that period are available in Vijayanagara manuscripts. Swara Pallavis, we can still get it. Padam. Again, it's a new form. It was a new form then, which now we all perform. Padam is a dance form giving ample scope for Abhinaya. Pada literally means a word or a line of Sahitya. The earlier counterpart of these padas could be Ela Prabandhams. The Desa Ela are the Prabandhas composed in different regional languages, such as Kannada, Grantha, Andhra, and Dravida. The Ela in Telugu is famous for its attractive gamaka prayogas, phrases bringing the essence of rasa and bhava of the song. The theme of Madhura Bhakti is not new to the Tamil soil. Similar songs with set Pallavi, Anupallavi and Charana Angas are presented as padas. This musical piece is set in prasam and slow rhythm with depth and meaningful philosophy of the Madhura Bhakti. This is a Tridhatu Prabandha. Talapakam Annamacharya composed various padas in the name of Thummeda, Vennila, Chilaka, etc. These padas are similar to the Kili Pattu, Vennila Pattu and Kuyil Pattu of the Tamil literature. In the court of Nayaks, several types of padas were sung and danced. They were Chaupadam, Darupadam, Madanapadam, Gurupadam, Navapadam and Padachali. And during the Maratha period, we come across more added to these padas. We get even Niti Padamulu and lot of other kinds of padams during the Maratha period. Muthu Tandavar was the first Tamil padam composer of the Nayak period. He was a great devotee of Nataraja of Chidambaram. He was a contemporary of Vijayaraghava Nayak. His Tamil compositions are of intense spiritual fervor. He has composed nearly 60 kirtanas and 25 padams, which are valuable additions in the world of music and dance. The 3 forms of group, now we are going to come to the group dances. 3 forms of group dance were very popular during this time. It was Kummi, Kolatam and Pinnal Kolatam, which we perform even now. They form the part of women's entertainment on the occasion of wedding and other auspicious domestic events. The songs for Kolatam were called Kolat Darus. In the drama named Chitrakuta Mahatmiyam, Saptatala Kolat Darus were performed. There are many sculptures depicting Kolatam in front halls of temples built during this period. This the stone barrel, which has Kolatam, you can see the sculptures. This barrel is to keep water outside the temple for devotees to come and have water. Inside that, water would be filled. Even that is been sculpted very well with dance. So art is in everything. Kuravanji is among the most attractive form of dance that developed during this period. The earliest Kuravanji performed in the court of Raghunatha Nayak was Mannaru Dasa Kuravanji. The content of all Kuravanjis were the same. The entire theme of the drama was Vipralabha Singara, love in separation. It was presented in two parts. The first part ended with the Kurati's fortune reading, and the second part with the Kurava's union with the Kurati. In Rama Abhyutayam, it describes as to how attractive a Kuravanji dance should be performed. The text describes that a Kuravanji dance drama should consist of Sindhu, Jakkini and other Nritta items with fast tempos and adavus and jatis. Some of the temples in Nayak period portray their sculptural representation, a Kurati carrying a basket and dancing. There are famous sculptures of Kurati in stone and wood in Srivilliputturu Andar temple, Tirukkurungudi Vishnu temple and many more figures belonging to the Nayak period. Tarangini, Krishna Leela Tarangini, the finest and the longest musical opera in Sanskrit, became very popular. This was composed by a sannyasi named Narayana Tirtha. Krishna Leela Tarangini consists of 12 cantos, just like Jayadeva's Gita Govinda. The subject of Tarangam is based on Srimad Bhagavatam, which begins with the avatar of Lord Krishna and ends with the Krishna and Rukmani Kalyanam. The musical dialogue, Darus, Dvipadas, Jatis, Chatushpatis make this apt for Nritya Nataka. This has 36 ragas. The custom of enacting the entire Krishna Leela Tarangini in the form of a Yakshagana has been in vogue in Kuchipudi village for more than 200 years. Tarangams are also included in the present-day Bharatanatyam margam. Now, there were also, as I said, lot of dance, dramas, theatre productions. Bhagavata Mela Natakam. Many Andhra Brahmin families from Kuchipudi who had been migrated to Melatur during the rule of Achyutappa Nayak had brought with them the Yakshagana tradition of Kuchipudi to Tamil Nadu. They evolved a new style of dance drama named Bhagavata Mela. The Bhagavatas narrated stories from Puranic episodes through music and dance, which were presented only in the temple precincts. Many centers like Melatur, Saliyamangalam, Teperumanallur, Moovanallur, Sulamangalam, and Ootukadu have been recognized for its Bhagavata Mela tradition. Yakshagana, yet another variety of dance drama, became very popular in Tamil Nadu during the periods of Nayaks. Before that, Tamil Nadu did not have Yakshagana. These dance dramas were enacted frequently in the court. Yakshagana is a very popular traditional art of Karnataka region. The origin of this form is said to have emerged in the 11th century, although the frequent use of the term is met with in the literature after the 15th century in Tamil Nadu. It has a Purvanga, which is then followed by the main episode. Many changes have been brought about in this original format with the reflex of time. Raghunatha inaugurated the era of Padas and Yakshaganas. He excelled his father as a composer of Yakshagana. He is credited with as many as 23 dramas, 5 Dvipadas and 1 Ragada. Of this, Raghunatha Abhyutayam, Prahalada Charitram, Putanahara, Kaliya Mardana, Vipranarayana Charitram and Krishna Vilasamu are only available. The rest of them, we don't get it. The Yakshaganas make use of many rare ragas. In Yakshaganas, the introduction of jatis in the dance items set in Saurashtra raga suggests emphasis on the pure dance. The use of atatala for many darus is interesting. The practice of using the same raga at the beginning of the dance and the end of the dance drama could be traced to the Yakshagana tradition. During the period of Vijayaraghava, the angas like Davala, Ragada, and all those angas those varieties were there which disappeared later. Their place was filled by musical form called Daru. Vijayaraghava himself figured as the central figure in some of these works. For example, he was the hero in Vijayaraghava Chandrika, composed by his court poet Kamaraju Venkatapati. The hero of Mannarudasa Vilasam was Vijayaraghava Nayak, and his work was in a Yakshagana model. Hemambuja Nayaka Swayamvaram is yet another work belonging to the Yakshagana style. The author of Mannaru Deva, the son of Vijayaraghava, and the last of the Nayak rulers. This work establishes the best Yakshagana piece and lends scope for utilizing the number of ragas. The Nayak kings received the Pallak Seva in the temples, which were in verge of becoming obsolete. They employed talented dancers and gifted them with lands and money to keep up the tradition. This Pallak Seva was performed also in the Yakshagana style. Vijayaraghava Nayak in his dance drama Vipranarayana Charitram explains the qualities of a dance drama. He says that dance drama should be a Natya Kadambam and it should have lots of Navarasas. He mentions number of items to be incorporated in a dance drama. There were talented instrumentalists on par with the vocalists and dancers in the court. Ladies were experts in playing musical instruments. Very interesting factor is the Sangeeta Melam. Perhaps this term came into use only during the Nayak period. It denotes a group of performance of all instruments, Vadya Vrinda. The comprehensive term Sangeeta Mela could have later led to the term Chinna Melam and Periya Melam. The dance orchestra was known as Chinna Melam or Nattuva Melam. These terms are significant from the utilitarian point of view. Sangeeta Mela includes instruments belonging to the temple. Temple music suggested by Rangajama, the court poetess. It also probably means a musical performance by a group of instrumentalists. Of course, Chinna Melam and Nattuva Melam, it refers to the dance orchestra. The stone sculptures are the best form of visual representation of performing arts. During the Nayak period, many new temples were built and the dilapidated temples were reconstructed. Many temples have been extended in the front yard with a mantapa embedded with sculptures. The temples at Tanjavur, Madurai and Tirunelveli districts are some of the few which throw light on the beautiful artistry of the Nayak period. The Ramaswamy temple at Kumbakonam is a beautiful monument of the Nayak period. The outeastern wall, Gopuram, of the Arunachaleshwara temple at Tiruvannamalai contains complete set of Karanas. These are the copy of figures available on the eastern Gopura of the Chidambaram temple. They are arranged vertically in the 10 pilasters on either side of the inner walls. Some of the sculptures in the panels contain either the repetition of Karanas or other dance figures. It is jumbled up. Vriddagirishwara temple at Virudhachalam has Karana panels in all the 4 Gopurams. Most of these mantapas built during this period are very similar to each other. You can, next time when you go to any temple, you can see the front mantapa and see, oh, this is Nayak architecture. So it is very, very similar. Dance sculptures on the pillars and halls in the Saivite temples like Meenakshi temple in Madurai, Athur and Brahmadesham, Tenkasi, you can see some varieties of dances. And in the Vaishnava temples in Nanganeri, Sri Vaikundam and other things, you can see Krishna dancing with Kudam dance and all those things are sculptured there. The temples listed are beautiful Nayak period sculptures. Nanganeri is one of the most important shrines of the Vaishnavites. The Sanctum Sanctorum was built by later Pandyas, and the Mahamantapa and Mukhamandapa were extended by the Nayaks. There are Pagalpattu and Rapattu Mandapams to perform Arayar Sevai during the festivals of the month in the month of Margazhi. These mandapas have the stone statues depicting solo dancers, instrumentalists and percussionists in the pillars. Panel of group dancers are depicted at the ceiling level. Group dances of mostly Kolatam is depicted in the panels. Tanjore, the sacred home of music, emerged as a great seat of classical music and dance during the 16th and 17th centuries. Divinity and dissolution were woven into the public role of the Nayak kings. The king was considered sacred. Temple was patterned after the king and the court was patterned after the temple. Kuravanji and Yakshagana texts of various types were produced at the court, and Harikatha and Tamil Terukuthu proliferated outside the court. Much of the classical corpus of the Carnatic music emerged during this period. In short, a great richness unfolded in the dance realm. Though credit was given for the cultural contributions, the rulers have received harsh treatment at the hands of the historians for their moral lapses. Powerful cultural continuity in a deteriorating economic setting is noticeable. The courtesan in the Nayak period has become a paragon of power, piety, magnanimity, and faithfulness. Patronage by way of gifts, privileges were abundant. The temples continued to provide for the promotion of such arts. The temple festivals provided the necessary incentive for the arts as before. This was a time of synthesis in the field of art, and the Nayak experimentations with new genres continued apace with their ambitions. Over the centuries, all the music and dance forms performed and popular during this period either became obsolete or evolved with new names and forms. The treasury of the Nayaks in their last phase went empty. But era ended leaving a rich heritage of fine arts to the future generation. Thank you.